Many of us get caught up in a drama of life, trauma of life, hardship, suffering, negativity. And we then wonder, that's all we know. That becomes your normal. In fact, who determines your normal? Who are probably the most influential people determining what you see as normal in your life? Your parents when you're growing up. In fact, let's attribute a time frame, maybe a 0 to 18, around there. They would be, for most people, the main determinants of what you see as normal. So if you grew up in a home where people shouted, screamed, fought, argued, that would be your normal. That would be your average. You were growing up with noise in your ear. When you got up, there was just this commotion. When you got to bed at night, it was probably to escape the commotion, but you fell asleep in the pain, the hurt, the suffering. That was all you know. The problem, what it's doing to you, because no one likes shouting, screaming, fighting, arguing all the time, but what it's doing to your body, it's getting you ready to fight, flight, or fright all the time. The cortisol levels are shooting through the roof. Your adrenaline's going crazy. You are on a mission going nowhere. In fact, given the chaos of your life, you're probably wanting calm and peace. Okay? But we can't find it because of the noise. And all of us at different levels are born into different situations. All right? When you're born into that chaos, what do you think what are you generally would be seeking? More chaos? More drama? You'd probably be seeking some peace. In fact, let's put it this way, if you grew up in a room where you shared your room with 5 other people, what would you be seeking? Solitude, want your space. You won't want a room with 10 other people. You would want your space with less people. If you grew up with noise in your ear, you'd want quietness. There's an interesting episode of Oprah she was convinced by one of her producers to go camping. And as part of her journey of going camping, she went to Yellowstone National Park, which is very well known in the States, and in a caravan with her best friend. And as much as she did the whole thing for a weekend or so, she said something very interesting on her return back to maybe what I might call civilization, or just back to Chicago, was that as a person who did not grow up in good circumstances, moving from a home to homelessness in terms of a caravan wasn't necessarily what she necessarily kind of viewed as luxury. Whereas those who are comfortable in their homes were quite comfortable to go and sit out there in the park for weeks on end. Right? Something very interesting. A patient described having a game reserve. And it's generally a game reserve where there's lots of caravans come and camp out, she says, for weeks, months. Some people seem to live there for years. They provide them with their own private ablution block where they have the key, and they are quite comfortable. And I guarantee you, most of those people who live in those circumstances are generally, fascinatingly, to middle to upper income. You will not find a low-income person living in those circumstances because it probably reminds them of where they come from. So when you grow up in chaos, you seek order. When you grow up in comfort, you probably want to explore a bit more of life and be a bit uncomfortable. So when you grow up in the drama, the trauma of life, you want to find some peace and some happiness. But most of us, if you grow up, as we're saying, 0 to 18 under your parents' watch, and perchance they provided some level of comfort and security, it is human nature that you will go out and want to explore. You want to explore and find the thrill of life. You want to go out there and see what life's about. Okay? The challenge is, as you venture out, and I'm going to draw it as in, there's us in our center, okay? You're quite centered, and you move out there, be it in whichever direction you choose. And you want to go out and you experience life, and we go on that romance, that adventure of life in terms of a relationship, and you want to go see where you're all going and just check out this world. And like a child who ventures out from the safety of the home, you went out there. And yes, what we do is we get rewarded. You may get attention, you may get affirmation, you get approval. And the mind gets appeased. because its ego gets stroked. Oh, you're getting admiration from someone. You might even get awarded for what you've achieved, and your ego just gets more and more stroked. And you think you found the answer to life, and we all kind of go through that stage, be it at around age 18 or later in life, where you're getting affirmed and acknowledged and approved for the role you're playing out there. But what happens at some point, as we know, you get caught up in that story, and lo and behold, you get lost. As we venture out, you seem to at some stage fall over the edge of this arrow, because it doesn't necessarily go into infinity, right? And it takes you into a negative space. That negative space, in fact, when you venture out, is you get caught up in a way of thinking, and you realize no matter which door you seem to open, there is no outlet. Your mind has no solution to the problem you are facing. We presented earlier some problems, and we see no solution. And what we're doing is we're looking for a way out via our minds. But the mind knows no way out. It is caught out there, not knowing where to go. Whichever door it opens, it faces a blank wall. And that then leads us to feeling depressed, anxious, other mood disorders, stress, guilt, hopelessness, all these things and everything else. We see no way out. But now we are so completely caught up in the mind, we don't know where to go. And when we ventured out, we recognized, remember I said that the mind was appeased, it was acknowledged, it was appreciated. And that gives us maybe at some level it gives us some dopamine. It gives us some adrenaline, or gives us some oxytocin, okay? As much as it's giving us those symptoms, we see that we can't get anywhere. Because we still want those drugs in our brain, those hormones, should I call it, that high. But all that starts happening, it gets replaced with cortisol and adrenaline to excess, getting us all stressed out. And we then get caught up in the dramas of life, and we see no way out. And if you recognize something, what did we place at the foremost of who we are? Our minds, the curiosity of the mind, the inquisitiveness of the mind to explore life. And when we get caught up there, we end up in a state of imbalance, because the mind knows no way out. It just sits there, not knowing what to do, and that's where we all are. And as you know, your minds are thinking 19 to a dozen as to a solution, but it finds nothing. Right? And it actually reminds me of what Einstein says. He says, if you approach a problem with your old way of thinking, you end up at the same problem. And what you're finding is your thinking is not setting you free. And lo and behold, we end up somewhere lost and continue to live our lives that way. Why? Because what we've done, we put the mind at the forefront of who we are. What your mind thinks is who you are. The mind actually at some level, there was drama around you. It got you maybe out of the drama, but it doesn't set you free. You and I need to shift the mind from being a master of who we are to the servant of who we are. And what does that mean? You and I need to centralize ourselves again. We need to find an anchor, because you recognize this by putting your mind there, seeking a solution to everything and anything. Your mind has provided you no answer. The mind knows no way out. The mind is not meant to be a master. The mind was meant to be a servant. So you need to find yourself again. You need to anchor yourself. You need to come back, if I draw it to a center, you need to seek your own center. You need to find your balance. You need to find your anchor. You need to find your foundation and your structure of who you are. Because what has happened is the mind has created its own rules and regulations, terms and conditions, which I guarantee you all of us are living by. You and I have bought into a way of thinking that is not setting you free. Your logic, your rationality, your I'll use the word ism, be it your communism, your Marxism, your fascism, your capitalism, is not setting you free. Whatever belief system you have is not setting you free. No matter what conditioning you have, no matter the status quo of how you see yourself, is not setting yourself free. And no matter what you're believing, by the way, is just an action potential in your brain that is firing all the time, and you are wiring, and you are sticking to the same wiring in your brain, and you refuse to let it go. So what that means, if you look at it, you're saying, wait a minute, I do not put the mind at the forefront of who we are. Yes, you have to let go of your mind. That means sometimes, as bold a statement as we can make, everything that you think, feel, say, read, and write may not be true. And it's absolute. I'm not saying it's absolutely true. What I'm saying is you have to let go of something that you're holding on to, because if you open your hand, there was nothing there anyway. And you have to seek a new way, I would say, of thinking and feeling, which is beyond your mind. So what it means is making the mind, as it truly should be, a tool, a servant to who you are, and find your center again. And what does it mean to find your center? You need to know how you relate to the world at large. So if you look at it, if you here at this clinic, the world or the universe or life did not listen to your logic or rationality. It did not care about your story. It did not bother about the movie you had wanting to play out. So what you and I need to do is let go of our logic, our rationality, our story, our movie, our script, our belief, our conditioning. And what do you and I need to go do? Letting go of that, you and I need to listen to life. You and I need to listen to the universe, because that's the issue. As much as it was someone, I'm sure it was hopefully not just someone, it was some people and circumstances and events. You need to listen to life and what it was telling you. You need to find balance with life. The person was just a vehicle that facilitate the challenge you and I are facing in terms of the conflict. You need to align with life and the universe. And that means being aware of who you are and how you align with the universe, with life. Because if you think this is who I am and life doesn't care what you think you are, if I think, for example, I'm the best thing that happened to this planet, I don't think life cares a damn what I think, right? And you'll usually, as we've experienced in life, it whacks you over the head and you realize, geez, you're not the best thing that happened to this planet, okay? Some politicians have experienced that, right? Okay, some have ended up in jail because they think that. Some have lost their lives in the names of thinking, I am the chosen one. And you realize when you stand up saying, I'm the chosen one, there's a sniper ready to shoot your head off. Okay? Because it wasn't in alignment with what the universe, I won't say the world, universe wanted. All right? And as much as you and I argue of whether he was right or wrong, you could prove that you were right, that he was the chosen one, but at that moment in time, the universe didn't give a damn. Yeah, you agree, he's been reduced to a corpse. Okay, and I think he wished you were right in your thinking that he rose up from the dead, but we haven't seen any of them do that as yet, right? What I'm getting at is, as much as you're aware of who you are, you have to align. And beyond that is then you seek that authenticity. And the authenticity comes in because of the drama you may have faced in your life, and that brought you here, the trauma, the suffering that you spoke of, be it from the time you were born, be it while you were growing up, be it as a teenager, as an adult, you have to go inwards. You have to take that time to introspect and reflect on who you are. Be it when all the kids are asleep practically, and you have that 5-10 minutes, you got to do it. Be it before they get up and set the house on fire. I hope not literally, okay? As not minds do, but you know what I mean. You got to get up that early. That's why you have these books like by Robin Sharma, the 5 a.m. Club. Because nowadays, where you expect to work from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, you got to get up at 5. Maybe in the future they'll make the 3 a.m. club, you know, because we just got to get up early and get our things done. Because nowadays everyone works hard. You got to create that time in the morning. And it's not just something we just came up with. So-called wise people have been doing it for generations, where they'll get up before the sun rises, because what that gives you is like an artist. You know, an artist will, the best to give an artist is a blank canvas. Like that, before the sun has risen, you have a blank canvas to paint and create your day. That allows you to step forth, a step away from the drama and trauma, and you then create and facilitate the destiny you want. Rather than waking up and you've thrown into the midst of a movie that you didn't even want, as we all kind of experience. And then you control the day rather than being controlled by what the day throws at you. And that allows you that awareness, that introspection, that meditation. You see it now, tons of people, be it on YouTube, Instagram, talk of meditation. That was a slur back in the day. Nowadays, psychiatry, psychology, there's tons of studies to show what a difference it will make. It will be amazing. I'm sure in the future they'll probably find a word like, as we're using nowadays, mindfulness, introspection, reflection. The opening page of a book by Mandela, not Long Walk to Freedom, one of his books, describes the fact that in jail it allowed him time to think, allowed him time to reflect. And the man, as much as it was the very same man that went into prison, it was a very different man mentally, emotionally that it came out. To the point where he says, when he came out of jail, that he whatever anger, negativity that he had, he left it in jail, because if he had walked out of jail with it, he would have not been liberated. He would have still been a prisoner. Amidst huge trauma and huge drama, he left it behind. You and I, amidst all the drama and trauma, yes, when you're a kid, you are clueless. But as an adult, you can choose to leave the drama and trauma behind. As a child, even amidst the trauma and drama, you kind of may have created your own world that kind of set you free. But be wary, you are not a reaction to that trauma and drama. You've got to respond to it. So you shift it. And that way, you move to your center. You become authentic and aligned with your future, and continue in that space of awareness. And the final A, as such, is the assertiveness, where you assert yourself in terms of the truth, the meaning you have found in your life. Very important, because this is a question raised the other day. What do you see as the truth, the universe, the world? And many of us may put a belief system like, as we said, capitalism, democracy, communism, something or the other. Or sometimes we may put a person up there as representing truth. Be wary that we put many a time, as life has demonstrated in terms of history, an unenlightened being at the center of our being, representing truth. And generally it will be a political figure, and they can get you into a lot of trouble, because you are buying into a belief system that, again, when you stand up, hopefully not in court, fighting for that belief system, you realize you are fighting for nothing except what was someone's figment of imagination. It has to be authentic, and its authenticity will come through in the fact that it will be eternal and infinite. It will never die. And something interesting, Mandela stood for a principle, a belief system. His belief principle was freedom. Freedom, you know this as a principle, will never die. Human beings, we will always be striving for freedom. In fact, we speak of the United States Constitution is based on freedom and equality of all human beings. The South African Constitution has been entrenched in freedom and equality, and you and I will not doubt that. And if you take it at authenticity of who you are, authenticity is that you want to be free and you want to be treated as equal. And at some point, what's caused us depression and anxiety is we feeling less than other people. We are feeling disrespected by others. You are feeling not cared for, not loved. But what is assertiveness? Assertiveness is respect for yourself and others. And it can go the other way around. Respect for others and yourself. Love for yourself and others. Joy in yourself and others. In fact, there's a saying, In the joy of others lies your own. In the happiness of others lies your own. In the compassion of others lies your own. All right. I want to capture one more topic because it was raised generally as well. And I'm going to talk about